In unprecedented fashion, doctors and lawyers from multiple countries have come together in the name of medical science for a unique purpose. Conditions have now been agreed upon that will allow a mentally disabled patient to be released into the temporary custody of one of his doctors. Behavioral experts from 13 countries reviewed thousands of patient files of the most severe cases of acute psychosis in order to identify the ideal candidate for this experiment. When all the votes were in, 197 of the 200 doctors participating voted to select the same highly complex subject, and his name is Jaco the Clown. Jaco has earned a strong reputation among his team of behavioral therapists as the most prolific storyteller of his own delusions ever witnessed. Appearing lucid, he's never actually experienced a lucid moment in his life. The experiment will allow Jaco to interface with the public once per week. His team determined that the most effective way for him to openly share his extraordinarily epic delusions would be from the safety of a podcast studio. Therefore, from an undisclosed location, Jaco will host his very own podcast show entitled See My Mind, where experts hope that he will educate others about acute psychotic disorders. Immediately following the airing of each episode, he will be safely returned back to his home in the hospital, where he has lived since the age of 2. The moment that permission for this international experiment was finally granted, sponsors lined up. As such, the funding was quickly secured, the podcast studio was built, and his team of doctors and support staff all committed to the project. It's truly a day of celebration. Now let's go live to the press conference, which is about to get underway.
Hello everyone, my name is Patty Limbo and I'm Jaco's publicist. Although we won't be taking any questions today, this is indeed a blessed day. I'm just so pleased that Jaco has been given this opportunity to prove himself. Jaco, I know you're listening and about to arrive at your new podcast studio for the first time. As soon as we can secure the satellite connection, we'll introduce you to the world. Oh, congratulations, Jaco. I'm so sorry for those of you in the back who can't see us up here. We were supposed to have a stage built, but couldn't secure the permit in time, and we had no idea this many people would show up today. Does anybody know if we have that satellite connection up and going yet? We do? Can we bring it up on the screen for our viewers? Oh, there he is! I see you, Jaco! Jaco, can you hear me? I don't think we have an audio connection yet. Jaco? Well, as you can tell, we can see Jaco in his beautiful new podcast studio, but he's unable to hear me and doesn't know he's on the air. Oh no, we've lost him. Well, we'll keep working on it. While we're waiting to reestablish our connection to Jaco, I'd like to introduce some of the members of his illustrious team to you now. Saul, are you ready?
Thank you, Patty. Hey there. Hello. My name is Saul Bender, one of the founding partners of Bender and Fixer out of Jersey. I just want to say that Jaco understands what he can and can't say on the air, but under the terms and conditions of his temporary release, someone from our firm is still required to be on the line throughout each podcast, just in case we need to intercede on Jaco's behalf. You know, to keep him out of trouble. I mean, this guy dresses up like a clown and doesn't know it. That's pretty messed up. He literally believes everything he thinks, and that's saying something. So, yeah, he needs our help, and our firm is committed to providing him all available forms of protection afforded by the law. That's what we do. Bottom line is that this is Jaco the Clown's one chance to kind of experience what mainstreaming into society might actually be like. And he knows we're here to fight for him. And by the way, don't call him a clown because he doesn't believe he is one. So, yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Saul. Oh, I'm told we've now regained our signal to the studio, so let's cut back to Jaco. Jaco! We're on the air, can you hear me? Jaco, I can see you! Damn, can somebody please fix this problem? While we wait for that, let me introduce one of the major sponsors of Jaco's See My Mind podcast, who is with us here today. This is Jim Knott of Mervyn's Department Stores. Jim, would you like to say a few words?
Good to be here, Patty. You know, at Mervyn's, our slogan is big brands, small prices. But it's days like today that make us the most proud. It's been a long-standing tradition of Mervyn's department stores to support worthy causes within our community, and we're proud to throw some of our dollars at this experimental show. We had the pleasure of actually, what?
Jim, I'm so sorry, but I'm being told by the engineer that the satellite connection to the studio is finally working.
Well, hey, we're paying for this whole production here, Patty. What, like, are you bumping me?
So sorry, Jim, but...
What the hell?
Let's cut to Jaco. Jaco, I can see you on the monitor. Can you hear me?
I was told that Morgan Freeman would be my narrator. That was not Morgan Freeman.
Yes, I'm so sorry, Jaco. It turns out that,
Did Morgan say he didn't want to do it?
I'm not exactly sure what happened with Morgan Freeman, Jaco.
Patty, if you want to remain my publicist, you'll get me Morgan Freeman.
Jaco, we're live on the air right now, so let's talk about Morgan later, okay? There's so much to celebrate here, Jaco. Oh my goodness, I'm just so excited. After years in court fighting for this moment, it's finally happening. Let me get out of the way and just let you begin hosting, and I'll see you later at the unveiling. But first, let me say this, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time, please welcome to the world the host of his new podcast show, See My Mind, Jaco!
Somebody get that woman a sedative, or perhaps a large hole to dig. Well then, it looks like that train wreck of a show opening is finally over. As for my publicist, Patty, well, it's been real. Greetings, dear viewers and listeners, and welcome to the greatest podcast in the world. Make no mistake, even though we just took to the air seconds ago, my podcast, See My Mind, already outranks them all. I like that. Now then, I'm told I must thank our major sponsor, Mervyn's Department Stores. Mervyn's. Big brands, small prices. How utterly cliché. I'm also supposed to introduce members of my studio team here in the pod. Fine then. I'll begin with my engineer, Robert Simpleton.
That's not my name, Jaco.
Oh yes, it says here, Robert Veranda. Well then, I'm told he's viewed by many as a fine young fellow. Straight out of Nashville, I see. Be that as it may, I'll reserve the rendering of my opinion for a more appropriate time. Say hello, Bobby.
Thank you, Jaco.
That's plenty, young man. I think they get the idea. For reasons nobody can explain to me, there are multiple PhDs assigned to my team who are required to simultaneously monitor me. Doctors of psychotherapy, actually. Behavioral geeks. Spooky stuff indeed. In any case, allow me to introduce those present with us today. There are 3, but only one of them is here in the studio control booth. Required by law, I'm told. Whatever. The other 2 are on the telephone line, ready to pounce when least provoked. Let's begin with those 2. Now then, when I say your name, please greet our listeners in a calm tone before retreating back into the shadows. Sound good? Of course it does. First, there is Dr. Anthony Shambles. Doctor, are you there?
Yes, Jaco. Thank you. Hello, listeners. I'd simply ask that you show grace toward Jaco.
That's quite enough, dear sir. We don't want to overwhelm them with your psychobabble right out of the gate now, do we? No, I think not. Then there's Dr. Victoria Hazelnut. How should I describe her? Miss Vicky, are you there? I believe I can hear you breathing.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Jaco, and please refer to me as Dr. Hazelnut. Okay, it's a pleasure
Fine, then. Please have a seat and enjoy the show. Lastly, there's Dr. Deepak Snedley in the engineer's booth some 20 feet away from me. I can actually smell him. Think of Dr. Snedley as a rather milquetoast of a man. I know I do. Say hello, Dr. Snedley.
I'm not sure I care for that introduction since...
Ask Engineer Bobby for a breath mint while I tend to more pressing matters, dear sir. Lord knows I've listened to you drone on for, what did you say, 43 years? That's long enough to drive a person a little crazy now, isn't it? You've definitely earned a little time out, wouldn't you agree? Okay, next is my intern, Clarice Bernhardt. She is a broadcasting student whose sole job here is to say yes to everything I ask of her. Say hello to the world, Clarice.
Hi.
Excellent job on that syllable, Clarice. Now then, straight across from me is an enormous man, dressed in all black except for the word security written in capital letters across his extra-tight t-shirt. I suppose I should acknowledge him as well. Truth be told, he is my highly overdeveloped and highly unnecessary security guard. For what or whom are you exactly protecting me? Because from where I sit, it seems I'm the one who needs protection from you. In any case, I'll introduce you and simply request that you don't beat me up at any point. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Desmond, my head of security. Desmond appears to be capable of squashing a Chevy Silverado between his thumb and index finger, should he ever desire to do so. Hey, Desmond, how many fingers am I holding up? Good boy. For you viewers, I'm suddenly thinking of a word that rhymes with raroids. Maybe we'll get back to him, and he might say a few words at some point. Okay, that's enough for meeting people for one day. As I look around my new digs, I see I've been provided with a few items, such as this memo machine right here.
That's called a typewriter, Jaco.
A typewriter, you say? Yes, I've heard of that. Tomato, tomato. Well, I'll be giving that a workout a bit later. I see they've also provided me with a telephone device of my very own. Splendid. I've been wanting to use one of those for decades now.
That's the phone you use to make calls to people outside the studio and for incoming calls after I patch them through to you from the booth.
Very well described, Bobby. Bobby, if you're looking to earn gold stars, you've come to the wrong place. Best to wait until called upon by a grown-up. Yes. Now then, I do believe it's time to proceed to the meat and potatoes portion of the show. I'd like to begin by taking a few calls. Bobby? Anyone reaching out to us here in the pod?
Yeah, Jaco, I've got Chris Sickward on line 1 for you.
Christopher who? Oh, whatever. Patch him through to me.
Jaco, hey, this is Chris Sickward from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. First-time caller. I wanted to congratulate...
How do you pronounce your last name, dear sir?
It's pronounced Sickward, but just call me Chris. Jaco, you are a real institution. All of the press you've received and the announcement of the new show, I've just been going crazy. I mean, it's just really exciting to hear about all of your success. Anyway, congratulations on...
Dear Mr. Sicko, thank you for your call and have a splendid rest of the day.
Jaco, he sounded like a really nice guy. I think you should...
Let me do all the thinking here, Bobby. I'd hate for you to pull a muscle in your head. Remember, I'm the talent here. Don't forget that.
I know, Jaco. It's just that...
Oh, shut up, Bobby. Or is it Booby? Don't test my patience, or I'll fire you like a howitzer. Now patch me through to the next caller.
Okay. There's a Steve Ludwin on line 2. Steve is calling from...
Patch him through, Booby.
Hey, Jaco. This is Steve calling from Costa de Casa in California. Hey, congratulations on your new show. I've been watching your story and you must be so excited to get out of the hospital to do that show every week. But I'm just curious, could you tell me what your plans are for your future shows?
No! Next caller, Booby.
No, Jaco, that isn't gonna work. You can't talk to people like that. You're gonna lose your sponsors.
You're fired, Booby. Pack your bags, young man. You're finished. Say goodbye to your career in show business. You'll never work in this town again.
Jaco, this is Dr. Snedley in the booth. Listen, you're not firing Bobby. In fact, you can't fire Bobby since he doesn't work for you. He works for me and I work for the hospital. I need for you to settle down just a bit right now. Don't blow this chance here, Jaco. I think you're channeling some real negative energy here. Maybe you're just a bit anxious with everything going on. Lots of new things all hitting at once. Let's try your breathing exercises together, okay? Use your wind chimes we brought you. You know how you like wind chimes.
Ah, yes. That is better. Much better. Oh, I needed a double dose. Bring me another caller, Bobby. I'm feeling chatty. I can see all those phone lines lit up in there from way over here. It's like New Year's Eve in that little booth of yours.
Jaco, your mom is on line 3. Blanche, are you still there?
Hello? Hello? Jaco, honey, can you hear me?
Mommy? Is that really you?
Yes, son. I just want to tell everyone out there to listen to me. And listen good. Jaco, he's a good boy, and we've always encouraged him to express himself. And just look at him now. You all be nice to my son. He's always been very, very shy and sensitive, so just be nice to him. All he's ever wanted was to blend in, so just be nice.
Oh, Ma. Mommy? Are you still there?
Oh, she hung up, Jaco, but it's time for your good mental health segment now.
Fine, Bobby. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with our brain detox segment, shall we?
Today's segment of Brain Detox is proudly sponsored by Oldsmobile. Oldsmobile, the best thing on wheels.
Last Tuesday, as I often do, I had a trifecta lunch. What is a trifecta lunch, you ask? Well, it's where I target 3 food establishments in order to create one worthy meal. First, I drove through Arby's for the roast beef sandwich. And while it's still hot in the bag, and without missing a beat, I then drove through In-N-Out Burger for their fries. Lastly, to complete the trifecta lunch, I drove through Wendy's for their large chocolate frosty. That's a gastric hat-trick, booby. Being a beautiful sunny day, I decided to step outside my 1950 Studebaker and have lunch on the patio outside Wendy's under the big metal umbrella. There were 2 other families there at the time, which is where all the excitement began. While trying to keep my distance from them, one of their little ones got away and headed squarely in my direction. His little legs were wobbly and all akimbo, and bubbles streamed from his nose. Disgusting. I was clearly under attack. With a menacing look in his eyes, and no time for me to escape, I prepared for battle. I don't know what he wanted, and I didn't care. this was a blatant ambush. The fact that I didn't see a weapon didn't mean he wasn't packing. He kept coming, even faster now, and I had to react. Do I put him in a triangle choke? Do I flog him with my big shoe? I jumped to my feet, and I braced for impact. I struck an intimidating pose and sported a facial snarl that would surely impress Joe Rogan. I let out an unearthly growl and prepared to fully engage with the little warmonger. What happened next took me by surprise. Apparently, my posturing was effective, as the blood immediately drained from the little toddler's face, as his eyes filled with tears and stopping in his tracks. I'll admit, what happened next was rather unexpected. He filled his diaper, then began screaming at the top of his little lungs in a pitch that remains tattooed to my brain. Easily 142 decibels. Well, his parents and numerous employees became involved, and there was much commotion. I recoiled and instantly demanded an apology from my attacker, to no avail. My trifecta lunch was ruined. Perhaps the police were called as well. Doesn't matter. I was too busy burning rubber to notice. So, dear listeners, today's good mental health tip is do not teach your offspring to become aggressive little bullies. Not on my watch.
Wow, Jaco. Okay, well, I guess it's time for your Dear Jaco segment now.
Then let's proceed. Cue the music, Bobby.
Today's segment of Dear Jaco is sponsored by Blockbuster. Blockbuster. Be kind. Rewind.
Well now, let's get to my first letter and see how I can help. This letter was mailed to me from a woman in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She writes, Dear Jaco, my name is Mary, and I'm 27 years old and single. I've been living with my boyfriend, Albert, for the past 4 years. At first, everything was great, and Albert was really supportive and loving. But over this past year, he's been very distant and moody. Albert. Last week, I caught him in a lie. He told me he was with his friend Jason, but I saw him driving his truck with his ex-girlfriend right next to him. I don't know what to do, Jaco. I feel like I'm losing him. Well, Mary, thank you for that spellbinding cliffhanger excerpt from your diary.
Jaco, again, I'm going to stop you right there. You're supposed to be promoting good mental health, and I don't think that's...
Fine. Mary, here's what I think about your pitiful little situation, since you seem to be blind to it. Beyond living in sin, your boy toy Albert is playing you like a kazoo. So, a bit at a time, I suggest slipping a little laundry detergent into each of his meals every day until he can...
Whoa. Time out, Jaco. Really? Jaco, shame on you. No, Jaco. We need to cut to a commercial here or something. You're going to land yourself right in the jail.
Hey, Jaco, this is your attorney, Saul Bender, on the line. Listen, you can't give advice to someone that they should poison their cheating boyfriend, okay? We've talked about this. You've got to retract that statement right now, Jaco, before we get slapped with a lawsuit.
Okay, fine. Let me just type a quick little apology memo on my memo machine. Dear Mary, got your letter. Wishing you and Albert all the best. Have a nice day. Sincerely, Jaco. Clarice, pick that up and hand it to Engineer Bobby. Clarice!
Yes, Jaco. I was making you a sandwich. I'm handing it to Bobby now.
Send that out in today's mail, booby.
Sure, Jaco. Dr. Snedley, why don't we go right to the prognosis hypnosis segment?
Okay, Bobby, sure. Let's try that.
Today's Prognosis Hypnosis segment is proudly sponsored by TWA. TWA, fly the finest. Fly TWA.
Jaco, Dr. Snedley here. Let's begin. There are so many of your life experiences to discuss, but today I've chosen to discuss your days as a brain surgeon.
Whatever.
I'd like for you to take a few deep breaths and get comfortable. That's it. Good job. Just listen to the sound of my voice and let everything else just melt away. You're very relaxed now, Jaco.
Am I?
Your eyelids are beginning to feel heavy now. You're on a beach in the south of France and you hear seagulls flying overhead.
Not working!
You can't keep your eyes open anymore and you feel like you're wrapped in a warm blanket and sliding into a deep sleep. When I snap my fingers, you will be completely asleep but still able to hear my voice and respond to what I say. And now then, Jaco, you told me a very interesting story one time many years ago. It was the story of your days as a brain surgeon, and I'd love to hear that story again. After telling that story the first time, you created a beautiful painting of yourself in the operating room as the lead surgeon. Do you remember that painting, Jaco?
Yes, Dr. Snedley.
Excellent, Jaco. I want to talk a little bit about that part of your life. Is that okay with you?
I loved operating on brains, Dr. Snedley.
Very good, Jaco. Let's go back to the beginning. When did you first become interested in becoming a surgeon?
Well, I was riding bikes with a friend of mine. We were both 6. His name was Skip. Well, Skip was showing off and rode his bike straight into a parked car. We were right across the street from his house, but nobody was home.
What happened next, Jaco?
He was a bloody mess, and I knew it was up to me to save him. He was unconscious, eyes rolling around in their sockets. So I got a good grip on his collar and began to drag him up the driveway little by little. His garage was left open, so I dragged him in there, out of the sun.
A bit more.
What happened next is what led me into the medical field at the highest level. I noticed that right behind Skip's left ear, his brain was poking through his skull and out onto the garage floor. So I immediately shoved it back in with 2 of my fingers. It was my first big league medical procedure.
That's simply amazing, Jaco. What did you do next?
Well, part of his temporal lobe kept pushing back out, so I had to improvise. Acting fast, I found a staple gun on the shelf in front of me that belonged to his father, and was able to push his brain back in with my left hand while firing a sleeve of staples with my right. Well, it closed up pretty tight, but was still oozing. So I looked around, and that's when I spotted it.
What did you spot, Jaco?
The mother of all repair tools. A roll of duct tape. To avoid any chance of infection, I improvised and sterilized his wound with some of my spit and began winding the tape around his head until there was no chance the wound would reopen. But I almost lost him, Dr. Snedley. He was having trouble breathing.
Tell me what you did next, Jaco.
Well, in my excitement, I discovered that I had used the entire roll of duct tape from his jaw to his forehead and completely covered his mouth and nose. Poor Skip, he couldn't take a breath. Well, I did such a good job with that wrapping the duct tape that I couldn't find the overlap piece to remove any of it. So, thinking quick on my feet, I found a pencil on the garage floor and quickly jammed it up each of his nostrils to create an airway. Not ideal, but he resumed breathing, which was, encouraging.
Amazing, Jaco.
Yes, it was. My very first brain surgery, right there on the garage floor, amid the oil and grease from his dad's 71 Plymouth Barracuda.
What did you do next?
Well, he was still unconscious, so I thought it best to leave him there to, recover. I walked home. I had a sandwich and a gold glass of grape Kool-Aid.
Did you go back to see if he was okay?
What do you mean?
I mean, didn't you think you should go back and check on him or call someone?
Oh, well, after a few episodes of Gilligan's Island, I returned a few hours later, but he was gone. A neighbor told me he was taken to the hospital by ambulance after he was discovered. Since I already saved his life, I'm sure it was merely for precautionary purposes or whatever.
So he survived?
Oh, my heavens, yes. In fact, just a few short months later, Skip was allowed to spend time in his front yard. They kept him in an enclosed pen, but he was out there. Sadly, he had lost the use of his lower extremities from the ordeal, and the sight in one of his eyes, I believe it was his left one. Oh, and he couldn't speak anymore. But had I not helped him that day, he'd be nothing but a memory. Oddly, I was not allowed to play with Skip after that.
I don't know what to say. Well, Jaco, let's move forward a bit in time. So you eventually went to medical school?
Yes, it was an online course from the University of American Samoa Medical School, my alma mater. Rah, Samoa!
And upon graduating, where were you first employed?
Well, I immediately went into private practice. You know, working for myself. I only wanted to work on brains, so I called my practice the Brain Depot. Like Home Depot, except for brains.
And people hired you?
Hired me? Did they ever? I think I spent more time with my hands in people's brains than outside of them. It was a brain mill. They were lined up. You know, there was no mucky-muck red tape at the Brain Depot. We didn't bother with all the usual time-wasting procedures and approvals. Get 'em in and get 'em out.
So you perform your surgeries at various hospitals?
Hospitals, clinics, boats, apartments, yes. Around the world, actually. I took the Concorde most everywhere I went, so I could get back home in time for lunch. Fortunately, I speak all the languages, so wherever I went, I could take charge immediately.
I want to ask you about your brain surgery painting. It's truly magnificent.
I paint large.
Was that a significant surgical event, or just a general depiction of you at work during a typical surgery?
No, that was a significant event. Oh, yes. The patient was Dennis Lang out of Columbus, Ohio. Dennis couldn't find any other surgeon who could perform the operation. He was in serious medical trouble and needed a full brain transplant. And I'm still the only one in the world able to perform that procedure. Since it's against the law to perform a brain transplant in the United States, Dennis flew me to Paris, where the surgery took place. It was a little clinic near the base of the Eiffel Tower. Their deli had croissants to die for. I like the ones filled with chocolate.
You're thinking of something right now, Jaco. Tell me what it is.
Those croissants were really good, Dr. Snedley.
Okay, Jaco, I'm sure they were.
I can smell them right now.
Focus, Jaco. Tell me about the surgery. Is your painting a vivid memory of that day?
Oh, yes. That image is etched in my mind forever. But first, let me tell you, I would wait for them to come out of the oven. I would order 6 of those chocolate croissants at a time.
Jaco,
And
forget the croissants, please.
Yes, Dr. Snedley. Well, the first thing that I told every member of my medical team that were thrust upon me, I don't need anyone's help. I can handle the surgery all by myself, and much prefer to work solo. But they always want in on all the glory, Dr. Snedley. Selfish people, really. They just push their way in, and I can't keep throwing them out one at a time. I just can't keep up. So my painting shows 2 nurses and another surgeon, all pretending to be helping. They're simply posers. Grab a tool and strike a pose. Greedy imbeciles.
Tell me about the surgery, Jaco. Did things go smoothly?
Not at all, Dr. Snedley. As soon as we put him under, there were some technical complications and missing tools, but I had to proceed to save his life.
Complications?
Well, yes. For starters, his cerebral oxygen levels were dangerously low. Turns out, one of my nurses was standing on his arrows, so that was easily corrected. I sent her packing that instant. Then, after performing the craniotomy and putting him on brain bypass, the bone flap was mishandled and thrown in the trash. So, we had to pull it out of there since, we were going to need that later.
Tell me about what actually went well during the surgery, Jaco.
Well, I was in top form, even singing as I worked. Since the anesthesiologist was an old friend of mine, we were playing chess on a small board that we balanced on Dennis's chest. I find it easier to relax when I don't take the whole surgery scene too seriously. But right after castling in our 4th game, that's when it happened.
What happened, Jaco?
The nurse bumped the metal container and his new brain hit the floor. It made a disgusting squishy sound as it slid toward the door. I yelled, "Heads up! Stop that brain!" It was like a loose ball fumble. Nobody could find the handle. I yelled, "Forceps!" And everyone grabbed a pair and began picking away. Oh, that awful clacking sound. I'll never be able to unhear it.
Good Lord, Jaco. Did somebody finally pick it up?
Yes, I actually did. I scooped it up with the chessboard and returned it to the wire tray right next to Dennis. Sadly, some of the gray matter was compromised in 4 or 5 places, but we rinsed it off and kept it in pretty good shape and kept going. Time was of the essence, And, well, there were no other brains laying around, and I couldn't leave him on brain bypass much longer. It was a game-time decision, and one I don't regret making. I proceeded with the installation and closed him up. Not too many leftover parts.
Well, how did the surgery turn out? Was it successful?
I've never lost a patient, Dr. Smedley. He walked out of that hospital 45 minutes after I sewed him up. Though, I should say, he no longer referred to himself as dentist after that day. Right when he awoke in post-op, he took the name of the fellow whose brain I had installed in him, Baptiste. He even spoke with a slight French accent.
How long was it before Dennis Baptiste flew back to Columbus, Ohio?
Well, Baptiste made a life-altering decision the day following the surgery. Instead of returning to the United States, he felt a strong kinship to the people of France and elected to remain there. He became a pastry chef and even opened his own cafe he named Café de Baptiste. To this day, he's never left Paris. I still visit him whenever I'm over there on business. We eat chocolate croissants together like there's no tomorrow. The only remaining symptom he has from the surgery is that he can't sneeze anymore. He just kind of shudders for a short while, then wipes his eyes and continues forward with whatever he was doing.
Interesting.
Yes, interesting indeed.
Well, Jaco, I really appreciate you telling me that story once again. You're obviously a brilliant brain surgeon, and Baptiste was lucky to have you there that day.
He's thanked me 1,000 times, Dr. Smedley. That's not what it's about, really. I operate on brains because they speak to me. I hear brains calling throughout the day. I can't deny them. I won't.
Jaco, it's almost time for me to bring you back to the present. Once you're back in the comfort of your podcast studio, there'll be a surprise waiting for you. I've pulled your brain surgery painting from your climate-controlled art storage warehouse, and it's on display in the unveiling theater in Studio B. I'm excited for you to see it and to share it on the air with your viewers and those attending the unveiling. So, let's begin by waving goodbye to your past. Just give a little wave to it, Jaco. That's it. Excellent. We're moving forward in time now. We're traveling through the 80s and the 90s and beginning to feel more energized. That's it. Now we're entering the year 2000 and we're really traveling at a high rate of speed now, flying over your life experiences and feeling inspired. We're flying over 2010, 2015, 2020, and almost ready to arrive back in the present. Yes, it's 2024 now. April 1st actually. And we're preparing for a smooth landing back in your new podcast studio. Getting closer and closer. In a moment, you'll hear the snap of my fingers and you'll be all the way back, feeling energized, feeling confident, and feeling optimistic about your future. Here we come, Jaco, and...
Jaco, are you okay? We need to move to the unveiling theater in Studio B now.
Yes, Bobby. Let's do exactly that. First, for those who may have missed it earlier, please show the fans that photo of my unveiling theater. It's so inspiring.
Sure, Jaco. Hey, check your monitor. You should see it now.
Yes, there it is. It's glorious. And publicist Patty told me that it's completely sold out for today's unveiling. They want me, Bobby. Yes. Let's go there now. It's time to unveil one of my masterpieces. I'm so excited. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's retreat to the unveiling theater now, shall we? Clarice, alert the theater. I'm on my way down.
Yes, Jaco.
Bobby, how about a little traveling music while I make my way down there?
You got it, Jaco.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Goodness gracious, look at all of you. There's not an empty seat in the house. As Jaco makes his way here, I want to welcome you to his brand new unveiling theater. For those of you here in the audience and everyone else watching and listening to Jaco's podcast, See My Mind, thank you for attending this very first live unveiling. Oh, here he comes. Okay. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the host of the show and the artist behind the painting about to be unveiled, the one, the only, Jaco!
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Greetings all, and thank you for coming to my first unveiling in this beautiful theater. I've been informed that there are many sponsors, celebrities, and industry people in the audience out here today. I'd like to introduce each one of you. But it's not about you today. No. It's all about me. Before I pull the cord to open the curtain and reveal my masterpiece, I know that some of my podcast audience listeners don't have the luxury of video. So, I'd like to briefly describe it to them, as well as to all of you here in the theater. If you've listened to today's live hypnosis session with Dr. Snedley, you've already heard the background of this painting. Now, I'll tell you a little more about the execution of it. As I always do, I use an impasto approach and finished the painting in a single session. True alla prima painting. I worked wet into wet, back to front, dark to light, big to small, lost and found edges, and packed with emotion. Each time I see it, it takes me right back there. Ladies and gentlemen, let's wait no longer. I hereby introduce you to my masterpiece entitled Brain Surgery.
And so it was. Please stay tuned for next week's episode of See My Mind, entitled Mount Rushmore, starring Jaco the Clown.